It is such a blessing to be here this morning, and I'm so excited about the High Holy Days coming up. So let's just prepare our hearts this morning and give everything we are to Yeshua. Our doubts, our fears, our worries, our hopes, our dreams, everything that we hope for, because He is everything we hope for. Amen? Amen? Everything just comes right back down to Yeshua. And when we surrender it all to Him, there's comfort and there's peace of mind, there's perfect unity, there's perfect harmony. There is power and healing in His presence. Amen? Yeshua is here with us. He is here in this house. He deserves our praises, so let's dance like no one's watching. Let's shout to Him. Let's sing to Him. Let's lift our hands, our hearts, to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and adore Him. Abba, we adore You. We bless Your holy name. We are called to be a holy people, a people set apart from the rest. In the songs we read, sing a new song to the Lord. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord. Praise His name. Proclaim His salvation day after day. So let's proclaim the name Yeshua. Amen. It's just a dress rehearsal for that wedding that's to come. And these appointed times, they're important for all of God's chosen. They're prophetic. And in the Torah, it's the shadow of good things to come. Amen? Amen. In Revelation, Yeshua says, I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright morning star. The Spirit and the bride say, come. Let the one who hears say, come. And let the one who is thirsty come. And let the one who desires the water of life drink freely. And those who drink from the well of Yeshua will never be thirsty again. Amen? Amen.
There's a young man marries a young woman, so your sons will marry you. And as a groom rejoices over his bride, so your God will rejoice over you. On your walls of Jerusalem I have posted watchmen. They will never be silent, day or night. You who call on the Lord shall take no rest for yourselves, nor give him any rest until he establishes Jerusalem and makes her a praise in the earth. Amen. Let's sing. Home, your sword of Jerusalem, I have said watchmen, I have said watchmen. Home, your sword of Jerusalem, who shall never watchmen on the
As Isaiah 55, 9 through 12 tells us, break forth in joy, sing together, O rulers of Jerusalem, for the Lord has comforted his people. He has redeemed Jerusalem. The Lord has bared his holy arm in the sight of all the nations. All the ends of the earth will see the salvation of our God. Depart, go out from there. Touch no unclean thing. Come out from there. Purify yourselves, you who carry the vessels of the Lord. For you will not leave in a hurry. You will not have to take flight. For the Lord goes before you, and the God of Israel is your rear guard.
Thank you.
Anyhow, Shabbat Shalom. It's a great message, isn't it? We are an offering. All that we have kind of reminds me of the Vahavta. Love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all you have. Amen. For those that don't have them or don't know when our Holy Day services, the fall high holy days are, they're on this card. The first one begins tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. And after service tomorrow evening, we will have a fellowship oneg that it'll be apples and honey and things made with apples or things made with honey or things made with apples and honey. The tradition is to eat apples and honey. So please bring stuff with apples and honey, or that you can eat with apples and honey. And then on Monday morning at 10 o'clock, we'll have our Yom Teruah service. And then the following, on September the 18th, we'll have our Kol Nidre service. And then on the 19th, we'll have our Yom Kippur service. And then our Sukkot services follow those with Sukkah Fest. And on the weekend of Sukkah Fest, we'll be having camping. This year, if you're planning on camping, you need to have your tent up and all ready before the sun goes down on Friday evening. And then you need to have your tent taken down before the sun goes down on Sunday evening, because Sunday evening begins the no work day at the end of Sukkot. So make plans for that, and we hope that everyone will come and join us camping and cooking out and hanging out. It's a great time of fellowship. We have some really special things that will be going on. We'll have more information about all of those, but I do know that Freedom Church, they'll be joining us at least for the Saturday evening, and we're encouraging them to come to as much of the other things as possible, as well as all of the other people in community. If you're Jewish, by the way, I'm saying this on the camera. By the way, side note, we are live streaming the whole service today. There were some concerns from some people that when we live streamed, it would appear as if we're not perfect. So I just want to assuage you of any concern in that matter. Everybody in town knows we're not perfect. So we're not surprising them by showing our imperfections. We are a group of the most imperfect people that love a perfect God. So anyhow, so we'll have that going on for Sukkot and special services, and then our Simchat Torah service at the end of the feast. So all that is coming up, and all the information is on the website for that. Also, the Emerald Coast Coalition for Life is pre-screening the movie Gosnell. And there are free tickets to that. It's going to be Monday evening. Is that this Monday? Monday evening at 7. And it's free. And the tickets are available, but you must contact them to get a ticket because it's limited seating. And then there is a 40 Days for Life is taking sign-ups for prayer outside of the American Family Abortion Facility, September 26th through November 4th. And again, those that have the ability to be involved in being there, we encourage you to be a part of praying for that. And if you can't be there, please just join in prayer during that time to support our support for the ending of the murder of millions and millions of babies. Amen. And I wish I had something I could say that was funny at this point that would take us back out of that moment. But I can't think of a joke right now. So we're just going to go straight. Yes, Pammy? Yes, we will have apples and honey oneg on Monday after service as well. And just for those watching, that is an example of our imperfection, as my wife hollered through the synagogue at me to give me information. So please stand and join us as we begin our liturgical portion of the service. And I want to remind those of us that have a little difficulty standing for a length of time, there are only a couple of prayers that are standing prayers. We encourage everybody to stand to worship because it allows you more freedom to breathe and sing and do all that. But if you are not able to stand, please don't feel as if you're required to stand during all of our liturgy.
Stop the mind. And with joy shall draw forth water from the fountains of salvation. How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. O Lord, for your abundant kindness I will enter your house. In all I will down toward your holy sanctuary. O Lord, let the house where you dwell, and the place where your glory resides. I shall prostrate myself and bow, bend the knee before the Lord my Maker. As for me and my prayers to you, O Lord, be at the right time. O God, in your abundant righteousness, answer me the truth of your salvation.
Oh
Lord, the blessed one.
Bless the Lord, the blessed one, for all eternity.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
6 days you shall labor and do all your work.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work.
For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. That is why the Lord blesses the Sabbath day and holiday.
Speak also unto the children of Israel, saying, Above all my Sabbaths you shall keep. For it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. Beishamru. The children of Israel shall keep the Shabbat, observing it throughout your generations as an everlasting covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Shabbat to another, all flesh shall come to worship before you, says the Lord. Beishamru. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has given us the way of salvation and Messiah Yeshua. Amen. Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Hashem Eloheinu Yeshua, B'Mashiach Yeshua. Amen. The Shema. Kelohim. There is none like our God. There is none like our Lord. There is none like our King. There is none like our Deliverer. Who is like our God? Who is like our Lord? Who is like our King? Who is like our Deliverer? Let us give thanks to our God. Let us give thanks to our Lord. Let us give thanks to our King. Let us give thanks to our Deliverer. Blessed be our God. Blessed be our Lord. Blessed be our King. Blessed be our Deliverer. You are our God. You are our Lord. You are our King. You are our Deliverer. You are he to whom our fathers offered before you a fragrant incense. Amen. Ein Eloheinu, ein Kadoneinu, ein Malkeinu, ein Kavoshienu, mi Eloheinu, mi Kadoneinu, mi Malkeinu, mi Kavoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shekiru, Avotenu, Lefaneka, Ekenore Pasami. Amen.
If you are mourning the loss of a loved one, or if this is the anniversary of the loss of a loved one, please remain standing for the mourner's Kaddish. Magnified and sanctified be his great name in the world which he has created according to his will. May he establish his kingdom during your life and during your days and during the life of the whole house of Israel, even swiftly and soon, and say, Amen. Let his great name be blessed forever and to all eternity. Blessed, praised, and glorified, exalted, extolled, and honored, magnified, and lauded be the name of the Holy One. Blessed is he. Though he be high above all the blessings and songs, praises, and consolations which are uttered in the world, and say, Amen. May there be abundant peace from heaven and life upon us and upon all Israel, and say, Amen. May he who makes peace in his high places make peace upon us and upon all Israel, and say, Amen. Yikadav yikadash me rabbah, ve'amad yivrak kirtei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayachon v'yom echon, uv'chayei d'kol beit Yisrael, v'adalai v'zman karim v'imru, Amen. Yehesh me rabbah mavarak l'olam olam me'amai, yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yidalei v'yidalal shmei d'kudashah, v'richu, le'olam in kol berchata v'shirata, Tushbachata v'nechemata d'amiran v'alama v'imru. Amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemai v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. If everyone will stand one more time as we begin our Torah service with our Torah procession, and if the children will all make their way to the front. We have the most amazing, the most wonderful, the most loving, the most well-behaved, the happiest, the smilingest children in the world. enthusiasm and so excited to be leaving the sanctuary. Raise your hands toward them and let's bless them this morning. Abba, we just speak your blessings into, onto, and around each of these young people. Father, we ask that they would learn of you, that they would have an experience with you, that they would receive Yeshua as their Mashiach, that they would be filled with your Ruach HaKodesh, and that they would walk all the days of their lives according to your ways. Abba, let them influence their world for you. Hashem Yeshua Meshachenu. Amen. And they shall go out with joy. People talk about a spirit of peace. When that door shuts, that's what we experience. This week's Parsha Nitzavim, is found in Deuteronomy chapter 29, beginning at verse 9. It's the last of the portions called the portions of consolation and comfort. And the blessing before reading the Parsha is found on page 65 in your Siddur. It should also be on the wall behind you. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato.
Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Bless the Lord, the Blessed One.
Blessed is the Lord, the Blessed One from all eternity.
Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the Torah. Atem Nitzavim Hayom. Kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem, Roshechem, Shevatechem, Zichnechem, Veshotrechem, Kol Ish Yisrael. You are standing today, all of you, before Adonai your God, the heads of your tribes, your elders, your officials, all the men of Israel, your children, your wives, and the outsider within your camp, from your wood chopper to your water carrier. Each of you is to cross over into the covenant of Adonai your God that he is cutting with you today and into his oath. This is in order to confirm you today as his people. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tokenu.
Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has given us the Torah of truth and is planning eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the Torah. V'zot ha'Torah asher sam Moshe b'fnei bnei Yisrael b'Adonai b'yad Moshe. And this is the Torah that Moses placed before the children of Israel at the command of the Lord through Moses' hand. Amen. Congregation may be seated. This week's Haftorah reading comes from Isaiah 61, beginning at verse 10. The blessings are on page 69 and 70.
Baruch Blessed are you, O Lord, who chooses the Torah, your servant Moses, your people Israel, your prophets of truth and righteousness. Amen. Pastoral reading coming from Isaiah 61, starting in verse 10. I will rejoice greatly in Adonai. My soul will be joyful in my God, for he has clothed me with garments of salvation. He has wrapped me in a robe of righteousness, like a bridegroom wearing a priestly turban, like a bride adorning herself with jewels. For the earth brings forth its sprouts, and as a garden causes things sown to spring up, so Adonai Elohim will cause justice and praise to spring up before all the nations. For Zion's sake I will not keep silent. For Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until her righteousness shines out brightly, and her salvation as a blazing torch. Nations will see your righteousness, and kings your glory. You will be called a new name, which Adonai's mouth will bestow. You will also be a crown of beauty in the hand of Adonai, and a royal diadem in the hand of God, your God. No longer will you be termed forsaken. No longer will your land be termed desolate. Instead, you will be called, my delight is in her, and your land married. For Adonai delights in you, and your land will be married. For as a young man marries a virgin, so your sons will marry you. As a bridegroom rejoices over a bride, so your God will rejoice over you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, zor kol haolamim, zadik b'kol hadorot, ha'el hane'eman, ha'omer ve'osei, ha'madaber u'makayim, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, ne'eman, hatahu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ne'emanim devarecha, v'davar echad mivorecha, akoya lo yashuv rekam, ki el melech ne'eman, v'rakaman atah, baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hane'eman, v'kol devarav. Amen. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, rock of all eternities, faithful in all generations, the trustworthy God who says and does, who speaks and makes it come to pass. For all of your words are true and righteous. Faithful are you, O Lord our God, and faithful are your words. For not one word of yours is turned back unfulfilled. For you are a faithful and compassionate God and King. Blessed are you, O Lord, the God who is faithful in all his words.
Our Brit Hadashah reading for this morning comes from Romans chapter 10, beginning at verse 1. The blessings are on page 71 in your Siddurim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Mashiach Yeshua v'hadibot shel habrit hachadasha. Baruch atah Adonai noten habrit hachadasha. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has given us Messiah Yeshua and the words of the new covenant. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the new covenant. Amen. Brothers and sisters, my heart's desire and my prayer to God for Israel is for their salvation, for I testify about them that they have zeal for God, but not based on knowledge. For being ignorant of God's righteousness and seeking to establish their own, they did not submit themselves to the righteousness of God. For Messiah is the goal of the Torah, as a means to righteousness for everyone who keeps trusting. For Moses writes about the righteousness that is based on Torah. The man who does these things shall live by them. But the righteousness based on faith speaks in this way. Do not say in your heart, who will go up into heaven, that is, to bring Messiah down. For who will go down into the abyss, that is, to bring Messiah up from the dead? But what does it say? The word is near you, in your mouth and in your heart. That is, the word of faith that we are proclaiming. For if you confess with your mouth that Yeshua is Lord and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart it is believed for righteousness, and with the mouth is it confessed for salvation. For the scripture says, whoever trusts in him will not be put to shame, for there is no distinction between Jew and Greek, for the same Lord is Lord of all, richly generous to all who call on him. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu hariva ha'emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tuchenu. Baruch atah Adonai Yotin habrit ha'chadasha. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has given us the word of truth and has planted life everlasting in our midst. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the new covenant. Amen.
If everyone will rise as we return the Torah to the ark. Shabbat Shalom. Just a minute ago, it sounded like all of the babies in the nursery were having a revival. The other day, I was reminded of my ability to get angry for dumb reasons. Now, I know, again, none of you ever wrestle with that, but I was at my house, and I was talking with somebody on my cell phone. somewhere. I was trying to gather all of my stuff together, and I could not find my cell phone. And as I searched through my house looking for my cell phone, as I was talking on my cell phone, I was getting more and more frustrated, and I could not understand why it would be that my wife would move my cell phone. She knows where I keep it. It's always in the same place. I just don't understand why that would happen. I got more and more frustrated, and went through this for a while. And finally the person on the phone, and by the way, this is not the first time this has happened to me. The person on the phone said, what are you sound tense. What's going on? And I said, I can't find my cell phone. And I have to go. I'm in a hurry. I'm going to be late. And they said, look in your hands. And I hung up. And I know that that's going to happen again in my life, because I can't tell you how many times I've looked for my glasses. Now understand, if I take my glasses off, I can't see. And yet, I have looked around my house for minutes. I'd like to say no longer than minutes, but at least minutes, plural, for my glasses. Clearly seeing that they weren't anywhere I was looking. And yet, it didn't dawn on me that the reason I could see they weren't anywhere was because I was wearing them. Now, I say that not just to be funny or to demonstrate my human tendencies, and also I know from talking with some of my friends, which I did before I decided to mention that today, that many of my friends have had this cell phone experience. And looked around for their cell phone while talking on their cell phone. That didn't used to happen when our phones were on the wall. But it does now. And I got thinking about that, because when an experience happens in my life, I don't know about you, how things and God speaks to you or deals with your heart or shares things with you. But in my life, whenever anything becomes that big, when something becomes so out of proportion, it's usually because the Lord's trying to deal with me about something or reveal something to me so that I can share it with others. Because that's not the first time that I've looked for my cell phone, but it is one of the few times that I actually allowed myself to get angry because I couldn't find it, because clearly somebody had moved it. Now, my wife wasn't there, so she didn't get the brunt of that. And had I not shared this now, she would have never known that I was angry at her for moving stuff. Because clearly, gentlemen, if we can't find anything, it's because our wife moved it. Or our children. But I couldn't blame my children because they're all grown and blaming their wives for moving things. But whenever anything seems to become so big that I can't not see it, I realize the Lord's trying to speak to me about something. And this week's Parsha begins with these words: "You are standing today, all of you, before Adonai your God, the heads of your tribes, your elders, your officials, all the men of Israel, your children, your wives, and the outsider within your camp, from your wood chopper to your water carrier. Each of you is to cross over into the covenant with Adonai your God that he is cutting with you today and into his oath. Now, understand that one of the unique things about our faith, biblical Judaism, and I say our faith because that includes those born Jewish and those that have been grafted into this faith, and understanding that those who believe in Yeshua, who truly believe in Yeshua, have become part of a Judaic experience, a biblical Jewish experience. You don't become Jewish, but you become part of that community, as we read in our Brit Chadashah, where it shared there is no difference in redemption, in relationship as far as between us and God, and how we get a relationship with Him between Jew or non-Jew. There may be different roles, as there are between the roles of men and women and parents and children and other things, but there's not a difference in how we come to faith and how we experience that. And we come in through a biblical Judaic experience. And the difference between our faith and every other faith that has ever existed is that when our faith was revealed by God, He revealed it to everyone all at once. All other faiths were revealed to an individual who then shared that direct personal revelation with and others who built up a new religion. Judaism is the only faith that began when God spoke to the nation, and He entered covenant with the nation. It wasn't that He shared with me, and then I shared with Jerry, and Jerry shared with Eloise, and so on, like the game of telephone where you just whispered as quickly as you could to spread the news until by the end of the line, when Robert hears it, it's nothing compared to what Jerry heard. But that's what's happened, is we have 25,000 different denominations of people that proclaim they believe in the Bible, yet they have their own interpretation of what it was said, based mostly upon a direct revelation that one person seemed to have that nobody else heard or saw, and now they were the only correct one, and everybody else was wrong. That's not how our faith is. So when Hashem spoke from the mountain to Israel and they entered the covenant, they all heard, they all received, and they all responded, all that you say we will do. And now they're about to go into the promised land, and they're standing before Adonai once again, and He says, you're all standing here. Moses, you're all standing here before Adonai, from the heads of your tribes, your elders, your officials, all the men of Israel, your children, your wives, the outsider within your camp, from the wood chopper to the water carrier. Now I have wondered, and I didn't look into this because we had a little rainstorm that hit this week, and I was a little preoccupied with a couple of other things. But I wanted to find out which was the higher position, wood chopper or water carrier. I mean, it's not like they said, tax collector or garbage man. Wood chopping's a lot of work. It takes effort and energy. You have to work really hard to chop enough wood to make a living as a wood chopper. Even today with modern equipment, it's not the easiest thing to do. And water carrier is kind of a difficult job too. So I didn't look into which one of these was most important, but it's clear He's saying from one side of the spectrum to the other side. And again, it's a matter of everybody had to personally enter into this covenant that God made with Israel, and by entering into that covenant, they became part of that covenant people, Israel. So it's an individual joining a whole, because the whole joins God. And when I was thinking about this in relation to my phone call, and I know you're wondering how these connect, and I'm going to try to explain that. My anger was my problem. I allowed that to happen, and I don't know why, because like I said, it's not the first time I've looked for a cell phone. It's one of the few times I got angry about it. It's kind of like driving. Most of the time I can drive with you maniacs on the road, and I don't get angry at all, but sometimes somebody gets in front of me that causes me to pray. And if they don't cause me to pray, then I end up saying things that I shouldn't. Not bad language, because I don't use bad language anymore, but it doesn't really matter what words you use at the attitude. I mean, you can say foot or another four-letter word, and the heart means the same thing, even if the word's different. So we have to be careful with it. But those are things that affect us because we have a personal responsibility to our relationship with God. I was thinking about this, and one of the things that kind of blew this up, and I think it really does, and I wrote a little about this week, is I was watching the news, and which don't do. It is hard to stay faithful and watch the news, isn't it? I was watching the Senate confirmation hearing, and that got me a little baffled. And then I watched the news, and listen, what I'm saying right now, I don't want you to take as if I'm one side or the other of the political spectrum. Because what I'm saying doesn't have anything to do with politics. It has to do with relationship to God. And I was listening to them, and it got me frustrated, it got me angry listening to the news. It was a shooting in Cincinnati. That got me angry. I wondered, why in the world do people do this kind of stuff? There's other things. A little baby was left in its car and got overheated and died in the car, and that got me angry. Why? How can people do this stuff and watch all this stuff? And I just got angrier and angrier over situations. And while all that was happening, and Pammy was shopping, which was just getting me more angry, and I'm watching the television, and I'm sitting there, and then the Nike thing came on. Now listen to me. What I'm about to say has no relation to right or wrong on the whole thing. I don't care. What it has to do with the response that people had to Kaepernick, to Nike, to all that. I listened to people who spoke with venom about a situation. The reality is that, and just so you know, Colin Kaepernick, and if I'm saying his name wrong, it's because I just don't know how to say it right. It's not because I'm trying to be... he stopped doing this 2 years ago. He hasn't played a ball game in 2 years. And people are still angry about it as if he did it yesterday. And those that aren't angry because he did it are angry at the ones that are angry because he did it. 2 years ago, an event happened that still has people so angry that they're willing to fight about it. You see, it's not what he did. It's the fact that we allowed hatred to enter into our lives in response to his actions. That's a problem. It's a problem that we need to deal with, regardless of whether you're on one side or the other. Both sides are responding with hatred. We hate the cops, we hate the government, we hate this group, we hate that group, we hate tennis shoes. The internet, if you're on Facebook, is like every other post, filled with venom and hatred. I'm not saying you have to agree with any of the sides going on or disagree with any of the sides. I'm saying that as believers, we should not be so swayed by someone's actions that we respond by being ungodly. We can respond. We should respond. We should have feelings. We should take sides when it comes to righteous or unrighteous based upon how we receive that. And I understand both sides of the situation. I do. I don't agree with both sides. I don't disagree with both sides. Matter of fact, I posted something. I said, what would be really a great commercial move would be for Nike to videotape Kaepernick standing for the national anthem and just put "Just Do It." If they were to turn the entire thing around, it would be like the greatest marketing move ever done. But you can only see that if you're not hating on one or the other, or both of them. I say this because the reason most of us have responded the way we have is because we've been influenced by people that we've allowed to have authority over our thoughts. When we listen to the news and somebody says something and we respond in anger based upon what they said, we've allowed that person to take authority over us. And it's a dangerous thing for us to spiritually allow. I'm not saying we shouldn't be angry at things. The Bible says be angry but sin not. We're allowed to be angry. Everybody go, shh, I'm allowed to be angry. But you're not allowed to sin, and that's what I'm talking about here. It's so important that we understand that every one of us is accountable for our own actions as believers. We don't live in a society and a faith where we have a priest that is accountable for our spiritual position, and we can live any way we want to as long as he lives righteously. We have a responsibility in every part of our lives for our actions. And when you respond ungodly to any situation, and setting aside the whole Nike and all that, whatever the situation is, if you respond the wrong way, you've ceded authority in your life to somebody else. See, that's why when the scripture says if somebody slaps you on the face, turn the other cheek, it's not so they can hit you again. I mean, think about that. This is the Lord saying, here's what you do if you get hit. Get hit a second time. No, he's telling us when that person hits you, they were trying to demonstrate their authority and control over you. And if you say you can't have that authority, I'm going to let you hit me. I'm being in the authority. It takes away their place of authority over you. It changes. When he said, if somebody tells you to carry 1 mile, carry it a second mile. What you're doing is saying, you don't have authority over me. God does. God's word does. And I'm going to carry it a second mile because I choose to be the one that chooses what I do. And as we're entering into this time when we go to Yom Teruah or Rosh Hashanah tomorrow night and Yom Kippur coming on, this time of introspection, this time of repentance, this time of squaring relationships between us and others, us and God, it's important that we look at who our authority is. And we only have one authority in our lives. That's why the scripture says, call no man rabbi. It's not saying not to call somebody a rabbi in the term of teacher. It's saying don't let them have an authority over your life that only Yeshua is supposed to have. It's talking about people like Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who the Lubavitcher Rebbe, whose people gave full authority over their lives, or people like the Pope, who is infallible People like that have been given a position of authority that supersedes their relationship with God. We need to make sure that how we respond to situations is the godly way to do it. I heard an old warrior one time. He was a soldier. He was a friend of my brother's. My brother Neil served in the Army for 33 years and went to Iraq numerous times. And when I went to one of his events, there was an old command sergeant major who was much older than my brother Neil. My brother Neil can't be that old because he's only a few years older than me, so I can't put him in the old category yet. But this other guy was old. He was almost Jerry old. And somebody asked him about being in battles, and they were having this discussion. And the soldier said this. He said, I never fought because I hated the people in front of me. I fought because I loved the people behind me. He had an understanding of who and what was going to be the authority in his life and how he was going to do things in his life. And it was a meaningful statement to me because I wondered, because I was in the Navy, but I never actually had to fight in a battle. I had a red phone in my airplane. I never picked it up. They told me it went directly to somebody important. I was scared to pick it up, but I really wanted to. But I never actually was in a wartime situation. But I wondered, how does somebody who's a believer deal with that? And that one statement, I never hated the people in front of me. That wasn't why I was fighting. I fought because of the people behind me. He understood that he couldn't allow hatred to enter into him. Because here's the truth. If you allow anger, the wrong kind of hatred, that venom that I was talking about, that anger that came when I was on that silly cell phone and getting madder and madder and madder, what started out as a little annoyance became something that was not good, not righteous. I allowed that to take place. And that happened not because I picked up my phone to talk to somebody, but because I had allowed the day to build up from one event to another 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 event that all made me frustrated and built up within me until I responded that way, getting angry because I had my cell phone while I was looking for it, which is so dumb. But it starts that way because anger, the wrong kind of ungodly anger, only dissipates with repentance. Without repentance, it just changes from one to the next. If I'm angry at Hosanna and we don't get things right and Hosanna just leaves, I don't ever see her again, the anger doesn't go away. I just switch to Jason. Or whoever else does something. And then I just change, and it just goes from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. It's the same with all sin. Lust does the same thing. Somebody's lusting after somebody, and that person goes away. They don't stop lusting. They just transfer that lust to the next person. Same thing with jealousy or coveting. Without God taking it because we choose to give it to Him, it just transitions to the next thing. So that morning I was watching a shooting and then a Senate confirmation hearing and the child getting killed. And Pammy wasn't there, and she was shopping. And all of that was going on. And it just allowed that anger to transition to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, till I'm talking on my phone to somebody I was supposed to be ministering to. They called me because they needed counsel. And I'm talking and getting angrier, to the point where they could tell I was angry. And they said, "What are you getting so upset about?" I'm just trying, they thought I was getting mad at them. And I said, "I can't find my phone." And there was a moment of silence, and I know they're thinking, do I say it? This is the rabbi. Because as soon as I say that, I'm saying, "Hey, stupid." I mean, he didn't say, "Hey, stupid." He said, "Look in your hand," but I know what he meant. After I hung up the phone, I stopped what I was doing and had a talk with the Lord. And asked Him to forgive me, and humbled myself and placed that anger where it belonged, on the altar. I put all of that into the hands of the Lord to deal with. And then when Patty came home, I pretended it never happened. And up until this moment, she didn't know. The reality is, the Lord showed me I was allowing something that I shouldn't allow to become part of who I was. And so this morning, as we were sitting here together and talking about standing before the Lord and being part of this covenant that He gave to us and made with us, it would be good if all of us just took some time today and thought about the different things that we may have allowed to have authority in our life that shouldn't be there. Jealousy, envy, coveting, lust, greed, deception, anger, and a whole host of other things that God wants to take from us. And if you're honest, you've had experiences just like mine. It may not have been a cell phone, but it's an experience where God enlarged or magnified that sin in your life to a point where it was unavoidable. Normally He talks to us, it's with me, starts to lovingly try to admonish me to do things right. And I'm sure that day when those events started to happen, He was talking to me the whole time and saying, "Calm down. Don't let this become a thing. Don't let this overtake you." And I'm also sure that the entire time I chose to ignore Him, choosing rather to get angry than to get right, until it became so big that it was unavoidable. And it's funny because the person that was on the phone got to experience all of it with me. And now, every time I see that person, I'm going to have to deal with that knowing look. That I would not have to deal with if I had just listened to the Lord earlier. And I say that somewhat in jest, but the reality is every one of us has experiences in our life where the reality of our sin became public because we just didn't deal with it before it had to. God calls us to Him. We say there's only one God. There's only one Lord. It means there's only one that has authority over our lives, and that's really the way it should be. And it's the way it could be. But we have to listen to His voice. We have to understand that just like these people, He said, from the oldest to the youngest, from the richest to the poorest, from the people in charge to the people at the bottom, from the woodcutter to the water carrier. Everybody, each one of us has the obligation and the responsibility to make sure that our relationship with God is the way it's supposed to be. All the time. And so this morning I encourage you as we stand, take some time today as we're closing out this period of consolation, of comfort, as we understand that not once did God bring about something in our lives just to show us that He had the power to do something, but that everything He does at all times is to show His love and compassion for us, and His desire for us to come to Him in repentance and to restore relationship. So today, if you've had the kind of week that I had, whether it was in the same area of action, of choice, of responsibility, of sin, or some other sin, I encourage you to humble yourself, to make things right between you and the Lord, to ask Him to forgive you, and if you offended someone else, to go and make things right with them, and allow God to burn up that sin like wood, hay, and stubble, so that we can stand before Him like precious gems. Amen?
May the Lord lift up His countenance
Couple of announcements really quick. One, don't forget we have those cards to hand out to invite people to come to our High Holy Day services. Jill Salter, who's the young lady that I asked y'all, instead of giving me birthday presents this year, to help her with a surgery she's about to have this coming week. I wanted to let you know that through her GoFundMe page and the generosity of so many, you guys included, they were able to raise all of the money needed for the surgery. They left yesterday on their way to Texas to have the surgery, and yesterday morning, just before they left, they reached their goal. Pammy and I will be visiting with them. They're driving past through Pensacola this evening, so we're going to visit with them and pray over them this evening. So thank you so much for your generosity. And I also wanted to remind everybody that we don't take an offering, we receive one. There are tzedakah boxes by both doors. Please put your offering in there. Those watching online, you can donate by going through our website and following the procedure there on the button that says donate, and just do what it says to help with that. Also, if you're a first-time visitor and you received a visitor's packet and you filled it out, please bring it up and introduce yourself to me. Give me a chance to meet you and greet you and welcome you and possibly answer some of the questions that we caused you to have today. And gather together with your loved ones as we say the Aaronic benediction. Yevrech Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav alecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. Adonai bless you and keep you. Adonai make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Adonai lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. B'Shem Yeshua Meshachenu Sar Shalom. In the name of Yeshua, our Messiah, the Prince of Peace. Amen. 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 Amen.